Ladies and non-ladies, welcome to episode 7 of Talking Bit. Guys, what's going on today? Huh?
Oh, it's another hot day in Melbourne. Having a sweat playing
So it's a sticky day in Melbourne as well. It's a humid day in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah,
So we're having a good old sook about that. What about yourself, Cam?
It's actually alright over here. Had me a bowl of noodles before and now I'm here doing the podcast.
Sydney's done with its heat wave. Cam can have his bowl of noodles.
It is, man. It's just been piss and rain like the last week.
Vietnamese, or what are we talking?
Actually, Chinese noodle soup was good.
I just had dinner. Now I'm hungry again.
Well, Marty's got a pizza on the way, so...
The podcast pizza, mate.
Yeah.
Potty pizza.
You can tell by his shirt which one he ordered too. That little pepperoni slab in the middle.
I see.
Yeah, okay. Wasn't sure where the hell that was going.
It's going somewhere, mate.
Going the way of the pizza.
The way of the pizza.
I just wanted to put a target on Marty's back, but it's on the front. Oh,
He's already put it on his chest. We're a minute in.
Way ahead of everyone.
Yeah, we're absolutely burning through the dad jokes, 100 miles per hour.
Okay, enough with the dad jokes. So Nate, what happened with our For Honor comp, man?
Yeah,
that was going really well.
We went. I think everyone did pretty well. We got a lot of entries, guys. We really appreciate everyone that entered. It means a lot to us. The feedback that came along with it as well was great. Thank you very much to Razorwave, who entered and was the winner. You guys can actually check him out. Twitch.tv Razorwave. Yeah, he's got a night cast. Cool dude. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. We'll definitely be doing more giveaways in the future when we get some more hype releases. But talking about our hype release and the giveaway, dudes, let's talk about For Honor. We've actually had our first post-release patch now.
Oh, we had a good stab and a good jump and a good tumble into that game on release.
A good fall into the water.
Good fall into the server issues as well. I guess you could say I was crashing the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah. I guess you could say that it was a lot of peer pressure.
Oh, shit.
Shit.
So who's having the kid? I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure it out and retitle this episode as well. Have you guys checked out the patch notes or the patch since it dropped?
I have, actually. I know I was smiling because there's a lot of buffs to the class I'm trying to learn, the good old Peacekeeper, but we'll get to that.
A lot of buffs. Yeah, that's a pretty light way to put it.
No, but like just to start off, how did you feel release went? I felt the release went well, apart from the server issues. These server issues, like any game that releases, you rarely get a game that does really well with the servers. I think it came down to maybe them not expecting the amount of attention this game got that it actually did. But then again, it's Ubisoft, so there's kind of a toss between, well, should they have anticipated this or not?
Look, we absolutely should have anticipated it because PvP games that they have massive volumes pretty much.
I mean, before we get into it, Nate, what was the technical reasoning? Like, what was these crashes and all? You seem to have more insight into why this was happening technically, right?
Yeah, funnily enough, there was a Eurogamer article just came out yesterday or a day and a half or so ago. So the initial problems were the faction war. You guys would have experienced that loading in. The first message you get on load in was the faction war, is unable to be connected to. I know when we did our first session post-launch, Cam, we got that lobby issue I was telling you about. So you would actually join to a lobby. On the load into the lobby, it would crash. You wouldn't be able to get into the game. I'm sure if you guys have been to the For Honor subreddit, you've seen all the memes about the networking errors. So there was definitely, they're flat out and for a pretty good reason. I mean, the connection issues were absolutely fucking wild.
Breaking the game at the moment.
Yeah, but before I shit on their networking, because I am going to shit on it, I still think the game is brilliant. I especially think that the move they made in their first post-release patch, that they changed quite a lot of things back to the way they worked in beta, one of those being guard break. And it takes nuts as a developer, I think, to look at your beta and go, actually, we had something better here than we did, what we've done for release. Most people will kind of make their release version work or try and force it to, but props to Ubisoft for dialing back on that. But Man, the peer-to-peer networking thing is an absolute mess. I think we spoke about this last time where I said I can't understand how UB have managed to nail the thematic content of this game. The combat is absolutely brilliant. Even the model of network code that they've gone for is very good in forcing accurate positions for all players. But the fact that it's peer-to-peer holds this game back a lot. And as Marty said, it's killing the game right now, because for anyone that hasn't experienced For Honor in its release date yet, you can, because this is peer-to-peer, you can actually use tools like Wireshark to inspect the list of peers connecting to you, deny those connections, and boot people from your game.
Just DDoSing them, right? DDoSing them.
Sorry, what was that?
DDoSing them out of the game, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. See you later.
You can, if you've actually got control over your network, you can pretty much just drop them without a DDoS as well.
Yep.
You can just deny the connection point and ruin it for everyone. So for anyone that has played For Honor post-release, I'm sure you've experienced either being kicked from a game that seemed rather suspicious, or the next biggest issue in my eyes is that people can just leave games without penalty. I mean, how many times have we played Dominion now and you're at 1,000 points breaking and the other team will just drop because they don't want to lose, and you can do it. There's no penalty. Yeah.
And the frustrating part of that is when they drop, they'd be replaced by a bot that would instantly get put to full health, and it would probably just completely wreck you without you even noticing.
Well, they have addressed the bot issue in the patch, didn't they say?
Yeah, they've changed that. Yeah,
and that's what I was going to say. They have addressed that, which is good. So that's one level of props towards these patch notes for that one.
Well, they're listening, at least in the slightest of the community.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell that they're listening by going through the patch notes, and especially looking at that Eurogamer article. But I don't know. They're definitely listening, but to what degree are they listening if they manage to drag out the Peacekeeper needs buffs? I'm not really sure. I understand fixing the bug to the bleed stack, because that was a genuine bug, as with the light attack returning a guard break on berserkers, and I believe the Peacekeeper as well. They were that was fixed in the patch as well, but Peacekeeper definitely didn't need buffs, and I've seen a high amount of Peacekeeper spam since that patch dropped as well. So
I mean, I welcome the buffs as a non-biased Peacekeeper here. I'm welcoming the buffs to Peacekeeper.
Bias or not, just being a Peacekeeper, it's absolutely happy times if you're a Peacekeeper in For Honor.
Keep the
Good
peace.
iron, it's not keeping the peace.
Keep the peace, man.
Yeah, there's not much peacekeeping going on. So look, I'm absolutely standing by the fact that this game has. I'm not sure how they managed to nail the combat like they did, but my God, have they nailed it? They just need to do something about. I think if they're not going to switch from peer-to-peer to dedicated server because of the way their netcode works and such, then there needs to at least be a penalty for people leaving.
What I can potentially see is them keeping PvP for your quick matches, but when they release competitive, they'll have dedicated servers that people will connect to. Where you will pay penalties for leaving. That's an issue.
Well, the matchmaking should be run on a dedicated server. Like, jump into matchmaking and put you into that. Yeah. 100%. Just also beyond that, just to control any sort of chance of people using cheats or hacks or anything like that, you need some sort of centralized system server side that's controlled by Ubisoft to regulate all that type of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in the same boat. I'd be very surprised if they didn't do it. I'm just, I guess, a little baffled as to how they didn't see this problem, well before it happened. I don't know how you really get through internal testing and not realize how much of an issue this could be, but the community is definitely jumping up and down about it. So this will be the test on to what degree they listen to and engage the community.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably like, I think there's less problems in America between their P2Ps because they've got a lot more stable infrastructure.
Oh, for sure.
When we're finding countries in like Australia, smaller European countries and stuff, I think that's where the P2P issues are really shining. So I think they really haven't thought about the whole world as a whole and just kind of targeted the small demographics where the infrastructure is going to be fine for P2P.
Yeah.
E.g. America, the UK, really well-developed parts of Europe,
Oh, of course, yeah. There's a lot of infrastructure out there that is better than ours. I just think the fact that it's so easily exploitable in terms of being able to deny incoming connections and then punish people without leaving, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if they implement a punishment for people leaving, and then you've got people getting IPs incoming on the peer-to-peer connection and dropping them, then you can force punishment. So
yeah, it's broken, absolutely. That
yeah,
shouldn't be allowed to be done.
I'm not a game dev. I obviously can't tell them how to get around that, but I'm interested to see what they do, because it's a pretty genuine consensus at the moment that it doesn't work in its current format.
Agreed.
And that release of your personal info, I mean, getting your IP can really fuck with you for that stuff.
Yeah, exactly right.
Outside of For Honor.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've seen the damage that can be done if Twitch streamers or something happen to leave their Skype open, and you know the IP is gained through that, and all the issues that have come of that. So yeah, it can definitely turn into a problem.
Well, speaking about damage done, I mean,
so fix your shit.
It's going to be a lot more damage done in the old CPU market that is coming in.
Oh yes.
With CPU market, eh?
It's time, boys. It's time to talk about Ryzen. AMD, they are a Ryzen. Do we continue this? Do we continue this dad joke train while we're on it?
Yeah, why
Might as
not,
well
man?
just call this episode Dad Joke.
Yep, it's
Dad
definitely
joke.
time for a title change. Have you guys looked at any benchmarks?
Only the really fancy one that came out where they hit the 5.2 gigahertz when it was liquid nitrogen cooled to negative 200 or whatever.
I looked into a couple of articles that were speculating the potential of the Ryzen versus the Intel processors as well, just to gauge what possibility or what landscape it would work better in and whatnot. So that was interesting to see where that actually works and where it doesn't.
Well, basically, the bottom line is that AMD is worth it again. I mean, it's not just like that second-rate, bottom-feeding, crappy company that you can pretty much wash over.
Yeah, exactly.
The processes you find in your local LAN cafe that you just go, ugh, when you walk in.
Oh god, yeah, it's another Ryzen PC.
Yeah, they've got something in the market this time, and it's been a damn long time. I mean, it's what, 2008 Intel opened up with the i7, and that was really the last time that you could reasonably say AMD had some kind of competition on the table. And
Phantoms just before that.
Yeah, exactly right. The Phenom, and then they had the Phenom X2, the Tri-Core,
the Black Edition.
Yeah, the Black Edition, the original quads. So it's been a really long time.
10 years.
Yeah.
A decade to think about their actions.
Yeah, and
I guess they have thought about it.
They've been
told to stand in the corner and think about what they've done for 10 years, and they've thought about it and come back reformed.
They come back. Got already thought about it. We only needed $16 billion for R&D.
From the ashes.
They have.
They're a Ryzen.
Do you think? No, honestly though, do you think they purposely named it that, or kind of capitalized on that? Capitalized on that.
They have
as a marketing thing. They have to have it.
They have to have.
Trying to rise above.
It can't just be accidental. It's too good. We're able to sit here and bust dad jokes straight out of the gate. It's too good, right?
I mean, number one reason they made that is so we can bust dad jokes. But number two, it's definitely got to be marketing rising above Intel or rising to.
Well,
Intel.
if you think about it, technically, these new microarchitecture CPUs are called Zen, so it's called the Zen line.
Yeah.
So RY is potentially some sort of just. Ooh.
Yeah.
Look at us, we're hip marketers.
Yeah, exactly right.
Ryzen.
Yep. Some kind of prefix to it. I think I think the most interesting thing about Ryzen is that it's not. AMD always kind of look forward. They genuinely have, as long as their business has existed, they've looked forward. They've looked to open markets and stuff like that. But the interesting thing about Ryzen to me is that the core count and the fact that they've implemented basically a hyper-threading and they've got the auto overclocking says to me that AMD have had a good long think about VR and the future of games and gaming applications where thread count is going to start to matter. And while the early benchmarks for Ryzen show Intel still beating Ryzen out for just pure desktop gaming performance, it tells a very different story when you look at multi-threaded apps and VR. So that's the interesting part to me, that they've not just managed to push these out and have them competitive at the price point they do, but like they did with their high bandwidth memory in their last lot of GPUs, it shows that they're really looking forward. Like they're looking at the future of the market and the future proofing aspect. I think it's pretty cool by them.
It's
potentially part of it came down to the fact that they haven't made a lot of money from that sector in the last 10 years and have been absolutely stomped out. And if they don't release a good product now, well, they're done as their efficacy as a business in the market.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the interesting part of that is we've just seen the Vega GPUs start to be announced, literally right over the top of NVIDIA announcing the 1080 Ti. Yeah. So you can see that they're really taking a war on both fronts, because Intel are definitely putting out some top line stuff right now in the 7 series. And the 6 series before it was absolutely brilliant, but it's impressive to me how AMD can do both at once, even if they're not going to be the immediate performance crowns of both.
Yeah, well, exactly as you said before, they've had a lot of time to think about it, so they know exactly where they have to position themselves when they're coming back into the market and what they have to do to get that slice of the pie back again. So they've thought about it and they're acting on it now. And I think, well, didn't they release something at E3 last year? And
you're talking about I think it was the RX 480?
Potentially.
That was the one that was trying to take on the 1070 and potentially even the 1080, but at a much cheaper price point. That was all the rage, I remember.
Yeah, it was basically their high-end competitor. And, for the longest time, they've had to kind of take the back seat, play the price game, price to performance ratio. Then you get the benefit of having FreeSync, not require the license modules that G-Sync does. So they've always had that angle pretty nailed down, but I look at it now, and obviously we need to see a bit more on Vega, but it's cool to see AMD finally back in a competitive environment in GPU and CPU markets, because we win. We're the winners out of that.
It's always nice as a consumer to have the illusion of choice, right?
Yeah.
It was the illusion of choice for the last 10 years, but now it's a big slap in the face saying, we actually have 2 choices again.
Let's hope so. Let's hope there's not some big conglomerate actually owning these 2.
Well, I'd agree. And regardless, even if it's an illusion, the benefit here is this time the illusion comes with an immediate impact on the wallet. Yeah, it immediately changes what we as consumers have to consider when we look at a gaming upgrade or a new machine or something. And ultimately, it's less dollars out of our pocket as this becomes competitive again. So I honestly think the 1080 Ti being like $30 more than a 1080 and 35% faster is a pretty good sign of that.
Yeah, and that is pretty solid. That is pretty solid pricing right there on NVIDIA's part. Like, honestly, I don't think I've really had a massive issue with NVIDIA's pricing. I know they still had their little monopoly, so they did have a bit of a more premium pricing on their stuff, but Intel was just completely outrageous with their pricing. They were just so monopolized.
They could get away with it.
Exactly. It was just ridiculous. It was just absolute. Like, as someone who's just recently built a computer about 6 months ago, the graphics card and the CPU is no joke, of course, the most expensive parts. But like with this new pricing structure coming in with what AMD is trying to introduce, I actually have components in my system that would be more expensive than the GPU or the CPU in this case, if I had built it with that, which is pretty weird to think. Like, holy shit, like my SSD drive could be more than the bloody CPU. What the fuck?
Yep. It's a good point to reach, because we've had memory segments advancing pretty solidly. We've had definitely the SSD price drop has been great. I mean, depending on the drive you're looking at now, you're finding some drives underneath 50 cents per
50
gigabyte.
Cents a gigabyte,
it's
that's AUD,
really
by the way.
What, sorry?
That's AUD, by the way.
Yeah, AUD. Yeah, that's local pricing. So it's it's good to see those two, as you put it, those really expensive top end parts of building a machine coming down. It feels like so long. I mean, it has been so long, but god damn, like, thank you AMD, finally.
It is nice to have. It is nice, like, to have that choice, though. It is. And also on the other side of that, with the performance of how they both kind of have their own strengths in certain areas. For someone like me who uses my computer for more than gaming and heavily relies on the architecture of a certain CPU.
More than gaming.
More than gaming.
Something more?
I can actually find value in looking at a CPU that does have a strength beyond what the 6700K, for example, would have. Like, the Ryzen seem to be better at multitasking, I think, from what we've read with the articles, whereas Intel's still leading the front potentially on the gaming aspect with the single threading and whatnot. So for someone like me, I potentially am better off with the Ryzen so far from the early studies.
That's actually what it's looking.
So the really cool part to me is that with AMD having the multi-threaded performance, I guess. No, I wouldn't. It's not the performance crown. If I said the performance crown, it'd be wrong. But they've got the price to performance crown in their pocket. And Hard OCP went so far as to write in their article that they couldn't honestly recommend that you take an Intel CPU into your equation when you're looking at a machine that will benefit from multi-threaded usage and not just clock rate. And they write in their article as well that it's been an extremely long time since they've been able to say that. So, yeah, you've nailed it on the head. While Intel may still be the go-to for raw gaming performance, with VR on the rise, DirectX 12 and Vulkan going to see a lot more releases this year. It's it's not that the landscape won't stay in that condition for much longer. So
I'm all for it, man. I'm all for moving towards multi-threading everything because it just benefits me. So I'm obviously biased to it. Using multiple programs at any given time. But at the end of the day, all of us use our computer in some sort of capacity beyond just gaming. And at any given time with multiple monitors, you might be doing something other than just playing one game. You might have Twitch open on the other screens and whatnot. And that technically starts moving into multitasking and multi-threading territory. So, the Ryzen in those situations probably will start kicking in and start putting up a competitive battle against the Intel processors.
All this multi-threading conversation, really reminds me.
What?
15 years ago or whenever, when 6-bit came out, and they're like, everything's gonna go 64-bit, get on it now. All the programs are gonna use it. All your games are gonna love it. Like, still, we're fucking 15 years on, it's like still can boot it up in 32-bit mode. Still waiting for that change, mate.
You touched on something that I think is not a lot of people look at. We're sitting here talking about the multi-threading thing, and we're acknowledging that the market, it won't stay in this kind of single-threaded performance, fucking high clock rate environment for much longer. But we've had hyper-threading and a real push for multi-thread performance literally since Intel started their domination with the i7 series in 2008. And we're still in a scenario where clock rate is the winner.
Dude, hyper-threading, I'm pretty sure the first time I heard of hyper-threading was the Pentium 4 processors. I'm pretty sure that's where they kicked them in. I remember or was it Pentium 3?
I honestly don't remember, man. It might have been under a different name then, the virtual core.
No, so it was I think it was the Pentium 4s. Yeah, there was a Pentium 4 line that kicked in with the
So 2002 Pentium 4, correct. Xeon server processor on a Pentium 4.
Not Xeon, that's different.
No, but he's saying that's the first time they implemented that technology. And it makes sense that your multi-threading developments hit the server processor line first, right? So that's not really a big surprise.
Man, just even saying that just brings back like a wave of games. Thinking about the Pentium 1, Pentium 2, going to school and shit, saying your friends, what you got? I got a Pentium 2, I got a Pentium 3. Oh shit! That kid would come in with a Pentium 4, he'd be like the king for like a whole week.
the king for the whole week until we realised it was actually the graphics card. It's like, you dickhead, you just spent 4,000 on a fucking cooked up setup for yourself without
I
a
think
graphics
back
card.
then, I think back then though, they used to be neck and neck. Back then, I think
they were definitely. I mean, CPU performance then was definitely more important. I think important is the wrong word, but yeah, in terms of where you were putting your money, they were both of equal value. Yeah, whereas now you know it's not even close.
Just graphics card, just freaking.
Exactly. You need both components to be of a high standard, but you can't do shit all without a dedicated GPU now. It's definitely not like it was then.
But in saying that, the integrated GPUs that come with a CPU now are actually not too bad. I mean, you can run a 4K movie and play your pixel games on them.
Yeah, they've come a real long way, but in terms of the architectures we have available for games, it's you know, now the GPU is an absolutely vital piece of kit. But it is reaching the point where we're starting to see bottlenecks from the CPU again in gaming environments. So, like I said, I think it's only a matter of time now till this landscape really shifts.
It's a good thing that you brought that point up, is there are games that are very reliant on the CPU, especially like your MMOs, especially the shitty, the really shitty written MMOs that have really horrible fucking coding behind them, and they're so reliant on the CPU, dependent on how many players are in a certain area around you and all that. And you'll see, you could have like a 1080 in your system, but if you got a shit CPU, you'll see it start chugging in a game like WoW, but then you'll turn and go, how come when I'm playing like a single player game like Tomb Raider or something, why am I getting awesome performance? Witcher, I'm just no issues, but I go into WoW and I'm chugging in a raid. What's going on? It's because your CPU sucks and WoW sucks in terms of its coding architecture.
Yeah, exactly right. It just goes back to the whole architecture thing and the fact that you know those games come from a time when GPU performance wasn't as dominant as it was now, and you just couldn't split the workload like that. CS is the same still. I mean, Battlefield is the same. For Honor is relatively CPU reliant.
What was talking about splitting the roles. In the last few years, they have started to put more of the physics-based requirements from game engines onto the CPU and taking it off the GPU.
Yeah,
that's an interesting shift.
Well, they went with remember when Nvidia first brought PhysX out, they had those dedicated PhysX cards.
Came and went real quick.
Yeah, they came and went fast as hell, especially once they released the ability to do PhysX calculations, you know, off your own second dedicated GPU card, then your CPU. So yeah, it just got to the point where CPUs were so quick or had so much resources available that you could kind of offload it a lot. And that's another area where these newer architectures, DX12 and Vulkan, OpenGL will really accelerate as those come back.
Absolutely, yeah. How OpenGL is making leaps and bounds in indie games.
Yeah, and it's vital that it does. You see the indie dominance lately, especially in RPG genres, and you've just got to be thankful for it, really.
Props for that is to a lot of the companies that are having tools that are so easily available to these smaller budget, smaller manned companies, which is, you know, like the Unreal Engine, the business model they're using for their their system. Also, there's a lot of systems like game dev, what's it called? Game Dev Studio or something on Steam. There's been a lot of big titles that's been made in that. It's not the best program in the world.
Yeah.
Game Maker Studio, that's it.
That's Game Maker, that's it.
Risk of Rain was made in that. There was also a big game that came out last year that was made in, I can't remember the name, but I should remember the name. But there's a lot of big indie titles that have been made in programs like that. And just touching on that point, it's really good to see things like OpenGL and these shader libraries being readily available to these indie companies so easily, along with these systems like Unreal Engine and Game Maker Studio and a whole host of others. I could probably
Unity, CryEngine's, Red Engine.
What's CryEngine's model? I heard you had to pay up front for that. Did they change it?
I don't know I think there's a licensing agreement based on volume or potential volume of sales, but one of the cool things that Crytek did, and Nvidia have done this too, and it's actually a big reason that they're so dominant right now. They started, if people would use the engine, they started offering in-house support on their libraries, and you see that with NVIDIA GameWorks, and you can go and read about developers doing it. There was I can't remember what game it was, but it was not long ago that Intel even had there was DLC for a game that was locked to you using an Intel CPU. So as gaming continues to grow, and especially PC gaming starts to push back in, you see so many of these engine developers and effect developers and library owners start to offer in-house support just so that people will use their engines. It's so competitive now, and it really is a reason that NVIDIA are so dominant. Their GameWorks stuff just went off tap. They put a lot of time and effort into it, and then they just started offering help and monetary support to companies to actually have it implemented in the game.
Yeah,
because NVIDIA is starting to get closer with Intel as well.
Yep,
and it's good, man. It's good because we need more indie games out there experimenting with. And this is a conversation we've had in previous Talking Bit casts that I don't want to get too much dragged into it, but just to touch on it, do we need to get back to that experimental phase? And that's what these indie companies having access to that is great, because there's just having a look here at the list of games that have been made in Game Maker Studio alone is like Valhalla, that one that you guys we were looking at earlier. There was a screenshot you posted. That's being made in that. Hyperlight Drifter, which was a huge release last year. Spelunky, which was a huge game. That was also made in Hotline Miami was made in it. There's a whole range of games that have had really good accolades.
That's a good game.
On the Steam and just worldwide on the gaming industry that have been made in this program. And this program's not the best. It's not amazing or anything. It just works. And just having access to tools like this is exciting, because there are some indie games that basically go above and beyond the AAA titles. But again, that's another conversation. So,
well, I think when I look at third-party APIs and effects and stuff becoming more mainstream, and what that means ultimately for the market and software markets, hardware markets, etc. One of the coolest examples I can think of, and this kind of shifts into our next topic, we're going to be talking about Overwatch. And if you've played Overwatch, you've probably experienced Dolby Atmos, which is their built-in HRTF function. Yeah, well, have you guys used it? It's great, man. Atmos is fucking brilliant. And I don't know if you guys know this, but when Microsoft released their big gaming update for Windows 10 this year, they're actually implementing Dolby Atmos support live to the OS. So it functions on all of your output devices. It's built into the OS. So that to me is the coolest example of those APIs and that type of support becoming a big thing, because it's been a damn long time since any Microsoft, Apple, anyone gave a shit about HRTF functions on headphones and audio in general and their codecs. It's been such a long time. Even Sound Blaster and Asus with their Zonar stuff, even that has been slacked to a degree. So yeah, it's really cool to me.
To have people caring about that kind of stuff in the market again, yeah, absolutely. It's been way too long. It's been brushed over. But I guess as games become a more integral part for sales across the whole of the computer industry, it's becoming a key part again.
It becomes a much bigger thing, because you get these. Obviously, Atmos is a really impressive piece of kit, and I know that Steam are working on a high level, virtual surround HRTF function. They've just implemented it in CS:GO, and it's doing particularly well there. It was a bit buggy to begin with, but they're doing a lot of work, and they're doing it because of VR. And as this VR push continues to come through, proper emulation of surround sound for headphones becomes a much bigger issue, because you're going to be wearing headphones with your VR headset. So that to me is Microsoft showing that they've got their finger on the pulse, and also tapping back into a market that they've been criticized for ignoring for a very long time. I mean, if you've been relatively into your audio, you know how hard it's been to get OSs to play real nice with either your third-party sound cards and audio tech. It's just been a fucking nightmare, to be frank. So it's
really painful,
man. Go aftermarket all the time.
painful,
exactly
man.
right.
Even down to just even like actually connecting it physically, the plug and play aspect. Some of them require you to plug it in and then boot your computer and all that stuff. It's so messy to get these things to work.
So much tuning, so many different things you've got to do if you're going for aftermarket solutions in terms of how you set it up and tune it. And the very fact that you even have to go aftermarket in this day and age for, you know, some kind of decent HRTF function that runs off of your CPU is, I think it's been damning for a long enough time that when you look at every single gaming headset that you can buy now, from any retailer, and they come with even just a $25 USB sound card to implement that function. Yeah, to me, it shows that Microsoft have got their finger on the pulse, and that these additional libraries, this additional support, and ultimately what will demand the most multi-threaded performance from your CPU continues to push forward. And this is kind of a big, messy, horizontal slice of how I look at Ryzen and how it interacts with our immediate consumer environment in games. I think it's the coolest shit ever. In a few months, you're going to be able to you're going to be able to build a gaming rig for half the price that you are now.
And then put that extra funding into other components that's going to make your gaming experience more streamlined, like an SSD for shorter loading times and peripherals that actually give you... Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. 100%, which we are looking to get into and show you guys. So make sure you tune in next segment.
Keep tuned. We've definitely got something.
Check in next episode. Yeah. We got some cool stuff coming along to show you guys.
But we were just talking about Atmos, and I promised we were moving on to another segment in which it was relevant, and it's Overwatch, and we have a shitload to talk about.
Oh, there's definitely a fucking big slab that's coming for Overwatch since we last spoke about it, which would have been maybe a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah, kick us off. Kick us off, Martov Ski.
Well, since we last spoke about it, definitely Season 3's come to an end. Congratulations to all my fellow Overwatch players out there. I wonder however much CPs you got at the end of the season. I hope you all got a gold whip.
I was personally quite proud of my 0 CP for the last season, having not played it. But, you know,
mate, 0 placement matches. That's what you get. It's all about reaping the fruits of your efforts, mate.
But, you know,
CP.
What are we looking at in the... Where we start with this? There's so much stuff that's happened with Overwatch.
Well, end of S3, start of S4, through the 28th. I mean, we've got a whole... Probably can kick it off with the whole different meta shift for people that quit halfway through S3 like I did.
Yeah, tell us about the Season 4 patch and the meta shift there.
That's probably... A lot of that comes down to the fact that Ana's been changed. Ana was basically the linchpin for holding the triple tank meta together.
Yeah.
High health pools, a bioignite that gives 100% extra healing across quite a large number of seconds. It was just way
in a nutshell, for someone like me who got a very proud 0 competitive points for last season, having not played it, can you give me in a nutshell what exactly the triple tank meta comprised of, how it worked, or what its composition was?
So basically, it needed a Roadhog. Roadhog was who got your kills and your picks as you were standing around at a gates waiting to push or assault an objective or defend an objective. It needed a Rhine. So basically, Rhine and Roadhog out of your triple tank meta never got switched. Roadhog can only get those picks if he's got a nice shield that he can stand from behind and the angles that he can exploit. Not all maps gave that, which meant you needed your portable Rhine anchor tank. Thirdly, the interchangeable pick tank that came because of the D.Va buff, which was about halfway through the season, was your Zarya and your D.Va. So initially it was Zarya at the start, or about a quarter of the way through S3, and then it shifted into D.Va because she was just way too damn strong to not pick. After they buffed out the amount of bullet damage that she does and the speed that she moves when she's... Well, it's just made her just a mobile gun turret that was unstoppable.
So essentially your triple tank meta was Road, Rain, and Rotate. Just a triple
Road, Rhine, Road, Rhine.
Road, Rhine, and Rotate. That's right.
And the interchangeable one was Zarya D.Va.
And you ran one healer because Ana was so strong?
You could run one healer with that one, and if your team was good enough, you did basically run Ana solo. So Masters and above ran Ana solo because she could confidently keep her team up quite easily. I mean, they all have huge health pools. So it's not too bad. And Biotic Nade as well for
Makes sense, yeah.
the team fights as well was just way too huge.
Jeez, no wonder she got a nice nerf back to the face.
Which she required, man. And the fact that she's been slapped with the nerf stick and she still gets picked just as much as she ever did proves that she was just too strong.
She got nicely Negan. So rotating into Season 4, how has that shifted the meta now?
So now basically your hit scans have come back in. And because of your hit scans coming back in, we're seeing a lot more Maze again.
Yep.
Because you can get to them.
So what do you mean by hit
your
scans?
Farah's coming back in. Hit scans, so pretty much anyone that shoots a bullet.
Yep. Okay.
Basically.
Yeah, so the difference between a hit scan and a projectile base is a hit scan is just a check against your crosshair actually being on the target, and a projectile is there is a physical projectile that deals damage. So yeah, it has to travel through the 3D space and hit to deal its damage.
So Farah versus a soldier, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely correct what he said. That's absolutely.
Is there anyone else beyond Farah who's projectile based? I can't think of
Lucio, Junkrat,
Zarya when right click.
Yep.
Who else? You've got I mean there's
Flame Strike.
Yeah, the Flame Strike, you've got like the Hook from Roadhog. So yeah, anything in which you've actually got to watch that something connects.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Yeah, so your hit scans are back in.
Your hit scans are back in, so it's just shifted everything up again. And now that Orisa's going to be coming back in soon.
Ooh, Orisa's going to come in.
So tell us about Orisa.
Let's have a look at Orisa while we're talking about this.
Not to just parrot too much off for the people who obviously listen to Jeff Kaplan, or they've just watched the trailers and they've watched the numerous amounts of videos that are out there displaying all the abilities and stuff like that. Which is basically a new tank, a new Reinhardt, that you're going to be able to utilize in most drafts, which is what Blizzard are hoping. They're hoping Orisa's going to be the new Rhine, so you're always going to see a Rhine or a game.
Orisa, yeah.
Okay, so where before you had the interchangeable slot on your, I guess you could call them an offensive tank in the way that Zarya and D.Va work, you now potentially have an interchangeable slot on your anchor tank.
Mm-hmm. So an anchor tank is basically where you can plonk and anchor your team around to assault objectives or move into that. You can position and make strategies from a certain point or an anchor point.
Yeah.
For the people who don't understand what an anchor tank is exactly, because I think that's a fairly new term that Blizzard have come around with, and the community's basically jumped on it and like, anchor tanks, brr. That's what we call
that's my bad for not explaining that.
But other than that, Orisa is looking like she's going to shine very much so on the tight maps. So your Nimbanis and your King's Row defenses before they turn into escorts, your hybrid maps. A lot of maps where there's corridors.
So what's the reason she's gonna turn up on those? What is it about her kit?
A massive reason behind it is that the Rhine Death Ball is just still unstoppable. I mean, boosting a Rhine who's charging in and successfully pinned someone and just insta-killing someone from the bat, and then you've got this boosted Rhine in your face just slashing and stomping everybody in front of you. You have to reposition quickly.
Yeah.
Orisa doesn't have anything like that. She's not going to get into your face in under 5 seconds and have just absolutely mashed your mate next to you into the wall.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen from Orisa. You're going to have at least a good 10 seconds watching her reposition towards an objective.
Yeah.
So her strongest weapon is that she's basically just got 200 bullets doing 12 damage. And when they headshot for 18 damage, with the potential to do up to 3,200 damage on a full clip, theoretically, if she hits every bullet, which is never going to happen. But to give you the numbers, that's a lot of damage. Potential damage she can put out. Right? Yeah. That's... I mean, if you think about a whole team's probably got HP, she can theoretically kill a team twice over with one of her clips.
Yeah, see, that's nutty. Yeah.
So that's the difference with her compared to Ryan. I mean, the fact that she's got a gun as well.
I would say mechanically, from having tested her on the PTR, she does, her primary fire does feel nice. It feels almost like a hybrid between D.Va and Bastion's Sentry mode. So you've kind of got that feel there. We've got this ongoing turret with a huge clip or unlimited clip in D.Va's case, which helps a lot. I really like that.
Potentially close to a soldier, maybe. because it's the 12 damage, so it's the kind of low damage pings that are coming out.
Yeah.
So just to backtrack a little on what Cam just said, he was talking about Bastion. I've heard nothing but crying about Bastion. I'd not.
He's already been changed, so he did have 35% damage reduction when he switched into his turret form, and when he switches to ulti.
Yeah.
So he's got like a hardened talent or skill now. He actually used to have this fucking way back in beta Overwatch, so March or April last year, they actually introduced it. And they took it out because there was a huge amount of crime. And it made him way too strong and everyone was picking him. And what they found was Bastion was such a goddamn niche pick that there was barely ever getting picked, and when he was losing games. They brought him back in. That changed back in. And it's basically being exploited at the moment to the max, as any hero does before it gets pre-nerfed.
Well, his changes to get nerfed already on the PTR.
Game. Yeah, so he's already been changed from 35% to 20% on live servers, I think.
Not on live, it's in the PTRs.
Oh, it's on PTR.
Yeah, it's going to drop probably with the Orisa patch, I would assume.
Well, that's probably why he's still being spammed, because they know it's going to get changed and balanced.
Well, that brings me to another interesting point that we actually spoke about very early on when we were looking at all the hype around Ana. That this basically means that if it's going to be put in with the Orisa patch, this is going to be another season where we get a hero mid-season, and we've criticized that in the past.
Mid-season-ish. It did start on the 25th of Feb, so it's not too much. We're about a week into the season now. Seasons go for 3 months.
Perhaps mid-season is a bad way to put it, but we're getting a hero inside an actual season, and we did kind of shit on that earlier.
Yeah, so they did actually take their feedback on that. Jeff Kaplan did say in one of his developer podcasts or episodes, whatever you call it, where he speaks to the community for 10 minutes and gives us an update. He did say they fucked up on the ARG for Sombra.
Yeah,
and they aren't going to be doing the whole mid-season releases in future because they know how much it kind of breaks a season.
Yeah,
when somebody as strong as Ana comes out mid-season.
Sorry, go on.
So I think the reason they've taken that back in is why we're seeing it quite early in the season, a new hero. Potentially they should have released it, before the new season started.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's my next question. Do you think that it being released at all in the season, actually I'll reword this, do you think that it being released only early in the season does less damage than literally midway, or do you think it's damaging no matter what, releasing it during the season being live?
I think it's less damaging at the start. It is damaging no matter what, I think, but I also agree that we can't really set these unrealistic expectations on the devs that we only have to have heroes between the seasons. Because the devs aren't catering to competitive gamers, because unfortunately casual gamers are your money makers.
I think it's a pretty damaging thing if you ever criticize a dev for catering to casual players, because even if you've got the elitist mindset of being a competitive player, if you've paid the money for the game, you deserve the changes no matter what. And I'm definitely not someone that would ever discriminate between those two things. If someone wants to enjoy the game being casual, they can. And I agree. I think it's wild now to look at seasons being 3 months and expect that they absolutely cannot drop a hero in that period of time. That's a long time to not drop a hero, especially if you've got a pipeline of high quality content, which I think it's apparent by this point Blizzard have definitely got for Overwatch.
Well, it's 4 seasons a year, and there's just a week between each season, so it gives 4 weeks out of a year if people want to prescribe to that theory of heroes coming out between seasons. It's 4 opportunities in a year. So it's like, all right, we didn't see a hero this season. Well, let's wait till the end of next season and see what happens. I think that disengages people from the game a little bit. So you'd see these waves of people coming at the start of seasons, the ends, and then dropping out. Start and the ends, and this way it kind of keeps their numbers and their flow of players constant and consistent.
Yeah, I agree that it's it definitely gives them a lot more opportunities to move in terms of not just engaging their player base, but engaging the player base in additional content, and especially keeping that pipeline fresh for them. We are going to talk about Doomfist and some other hero leaks and potential ARGs, and you don't have the potential for things like that to happen if you clog that pipeline up just for competitive seasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you also got to look at it, I'm thinking in a disruptive way. So they purposely drop, well, not purposely, but they don't really worry about when they drop the hero, because then it does add a disruption to the meta. Especially in Anna's case, it was maybe an exciting disruption for some people, maybe frustrating for others who have mastered a certain style of play or a certain strategy. But for someone, maybe a viewer, or for the greater community watching the competitive season get disrupted by this new hero, could be quite exciting, seeing how that shifts things around and how people
Sombra
adapt
came in
and
at
stuff.
the end of season 3, roughly the last month.
I honestly think, and this is kind of taking something from CS to a degree, I honestly think that the most damaging thing you can do is, I guess, kind of drop a hero right as you've got big tournaments or global events or something like that on. It's different if you're dropping that hero and they're not live for competitive, but if you're, for example, playing in Overwatch World Championships or some nonsense like that, and a hero drops on the beginning day of this tournament and it's live in competitive play straight away, I think that's the only time that you really start hitting risk areas.
Curveball.
It's a curveball, but it's not a curveball that's good for a competitive environment. And I think that you can balance it enough around that you can make it work 99% of the time and understand where it won't.
Yeah, it's probably exciting maybe for the more casually involved viewer base of the competitive scene, I'd say, for the viewers to see this disruption come in and see how people have to adapt to it. But of course, for the teams actually competing, it can be a very frustrating experience to have to deal with that and to then have to adapt or whatnot to that situation. So yeah, I can completely understand where you're coming from on that point.
So while we're talking about new heroes and such, what is going on with Doomfist?
With Terry Crews?
Yeah, Terry Crews, because there's been kind of this mix on the whole. Right before Orisa dropped, there was a confusion between whether it was going to be Orisa or the Orisa creator. I can't remember, Effie or something. I can't remember the name.
Effie O'Daly.
Effie.
Yeah.
Or Oladale or something.
Yep.
So a lot of the internet at the moment is speculating, and it's quite strong speculation, actually, that there could potentially be 2 heroes coming for us at the start of this season. Potentially.
That'll be really interesting.
And obviously the other potential one is Doomfist, right?
Yeah, that's linked onto Doomfist because directly being the fact that Effie has created OR15 or Orisa. Specifically to be able to combat Doomfist. That's why in the lore, he's got that fortify ability to stop him from being knocked back and beaten around like a sack.
Okay.
So...
And he has
Jeff
technically been introduced in a way as well, if you look at that situation.
Well, yeah, technically he has already been introduced in the game to the fact that he did cause that massacre of robots at the Numbani station.
Yeah.
And you see
stated that again, that it was Doomfist stealing his fist back, and that was him. 100%.
And you see him, I mean, the first Overwatch trailer ever released, actually, well, you get to see the Doomfist in action.
Well, the funny part is about it now is that on the posters it's actually written as Savior.
Yeah.
So if he's the Savior, why is the Savior at the moment
well, isn't there 3?
The Scourge of Numbani? There's 3, 2 have already come and gone, and the 3rd is called the Savior.
The 3rd is
why is the Savior coming and wrecking Numbani and is known as the Scourge of Numbani? So I think lore-wise, potentially we might be seeing something along the lines of Orisa or the Overwatch team defeating the Doomfist that came to the station, and a new person coming in and taking on
it on as becoming the Savior. It could be an event. It could be like the Halloween event. You have like this little...
you can't call the Savior, can't be the Savior and the Scourge of Numbani.
You could have a PvE event similar to Halloween, maybe, coming in.
Absolutely, yeah. They've already said and taken on the feedback from...
Because that was fun as... That was so
Yeah,
much
that
fun.
was great. That was a lot of fun.
Had so
They
much
said
fun
that
with
there's
that.
more single player content coming for Overwatch in the future.
And it was a good bite-sized chunk of it. It wasn't leading to a campaign and all this bullshit where you start getting your development split and then competitive suffers because of it and whatnot. It was just like a nice little bite-sized chunk of single-player or co-op content.
Yeah, it was just a really
It was just right.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
right.
a really cool piece of content to celebrate the holiday and make use of assets that they already own. It was it was really fuck man. To
It's
talk
another
every
dietide for Dota 2.
Yep.
Volvo
It feels
gift
like-
dietide.
Feels like every time we talk about Overwatch, we've got some reason to talk about just how goddamn high quality the things that Blizzard are putting out for it are. But that's a good example.
Keeping ahead of the game. Ooh.
Probably one of the last kind of sneaky little pieces on Overwatch at the moment is this new Greek hero. They have kind of been speculating. So a few people on the internet might have already seen it about. But basically there was an actor called Alex Malaos who quickly removed the entry from his IMDb when it came up, stating that he had worked and he was credited for an unknown Greek actor
Ooh.
under the title of
Okay.
Overwatch on behalf of Blizzard Entertainment. So that was on his IMDb and he's
that
come
gone
out
now?
and said, it was gone.
You got the smackdown from Blizzard
So he's-
instantly.
Yep,
Yeah.
basically. So he has come out and said, and now we obviously know that no Greek hero is the 24th hero because it's Orisa.
Mhm.
And he has come out and said that the internet is just, basically creating up their own stories and it's just a load of hogwash. But, and speaking about that, pretty much every hero has maps. And there is Ilios
Yeah.
in the map at the moment, which has no hero tied to them.
Ilios.
So regardless if it's sooner or later, there will be some sort of a
If you're going with that, if you're going with that theory, what does the new Oasis map that's just dropped? Who does that tie to? Is that still?
Doomfist, possibly.
Yeah,
I thought
Doomfist
Doomfist was
possibly, yeah.
Numbani.
Maybe you could be Doomfist rolling around hammering those cars that are flying past. I don't. Yeah. Environmental damage. Take a leaf out of For Honor's book. I
Just
don't know.
starts throwing cars at you while you're playing.
Yeah,
Actually, I
smashing
think
cars
Oasis
around.
is actually something to do with Zenyatta.
What? Oasis? Isn't Zenyatta the Nepal maps?
It is the temples of Nepal, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Oasis is supposed to be some new sort of area that people are creating to live in harmony.
Well, I'm just trying to think of there's some more Arabic-oriented characters, and the closest is probably Farah.
It's
and
Farah, yeah,
Anna,
and Anna.
but they've got their maps already, I guess, in a
Yeah.
way, with the Egyptian maps. So, who knows?
So it's good speculation. There's a lot going on for it. Definitely a time to pick it back up if you've taken a break from it.
You gotta love a game.
Jump right back in that mud.
You gotta love a game that sets up so much lore and room for characters, but then gives you enough content at release and whatnot to keep you satisfied. But then know there's such a big, expansive world ready to be explored that's already been set up from day one. Like Doomfist's Gauntlet was in the first trailer. We haven't even seen it yet. We're like almost a year into the game, and that was already, it wasn't
That's
just like
the
released.
impressive part. I mean, we know that Overwatch came from, a deconstructed version of Titan there at Blizzard, but to what I would love to be a fly on the wall and know to what degree the lore was developed during Titan and kind of where this fell off. And it's nuts because this blows away a lot of MOBAs. It blows away every other FPS. Like the lore here and the thought that they've put into it is pretty high level.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah,
It's the newest Blizzard
really
IP
involved.
in like 10, 20 years. The first new IP Blizzard has actually released. All this time they've just been capitalizing on StarCraft, Diablo, and Warcraft universes, and they've actually created this whole new. And from what I remember, from what they released or the little information we knew about Titan, Overwatch was a police force within the Titan MMO, and then those assets were obviously repurposed to create a standalone
Yeah,
game.
Tracer. They said Tracer was a direct copy.
Wow.
Direct recycle from Titan.
They've done well.
Yeah.
Done
Very,
really well.
very cool to me how they've done it.
They don't hold back the quality there, which is really good. So you're going to be giving Orisa a lick? I'm keen to try her out when she does hit the live servers.
She's potentially going to be my new main, so probably her
Got in there
with
before I could
Ryan
say
and
it.
Yeah, play
I'll
that.
buy
Hang.
all the web for her.
Waiting for
Yeah.
Marty to say, Cam, you still got to master your Ryan before you come take Orisa.
Got a master of Orion.
Master of Orion. So I guess that brings us on to our next topic, and it bridges pretty well when we're talking about MMOs and Blizzard and quality attrition through them. We're going to be talking about, well, we're going to start by talking about Tree of Savior, because I know Cam's got some hype going around it, and we're going to be talking about old school MMOs, really, and the MMOs that we first started playing.
Influenced. Yep.
So let me see. Tree of Savior. Now, the reason why I was really hyped about trying this game out when it was first getting released or in beta is because I loved, one of my first introductions to MMOs back in the day was Ragnarok Online. And you guys have all played that, right? I love the idea of the isometric play feel, the ARPG type of feel of an MMO. But Tree of Savior just looked like such a polished version of it. And the disappointing thing was that Ragnarok 2 actually Online 2 was actually released, which was just, they went with the complete typical let's go third person WoW style.
Yeah, it was more or less WoW style, right?
And it killed the whole feel of what made Ragnarok so unique and so loved. And this is kind of considered the spiritual successor, Tree of Savior, to Ragnarok. It's done extremely well. In the terms of graphics wise, the art is just absolutely amazing. The characters just branch on for days, just like Ragnarok did. Like we're talking about ascending to ascending to ascending, just branch off and off all the way up, which is really, really awesome and really, really fun. I don't know how well I don't think it's done as well as you possibly would want it to. In
your Western markets,
in your Western markets, it is quite grindy from when I did play it.
Ragnarok was no different though, man. Ragnarok was fucking. I mean, there was quests in there, but it was all grind.
MMO.
Yeah, grind.
I think people have just been spoiled by the fact that you've got games like World of Warcraft and whatnot, and Guild Wars and everything that have made the grind so easy and so simplistic that they're just not used to it.
Started off with a grind. They forgot go vanilla. It just took
grinding was more beneficial than questing in the original day.
It did, but in comparison to what else was around, it was a cakewalk. Because we're talking about like Lineage 2, we're talking about EverQuest and shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But WoW's content on release was just like a cakewalk to hit 60 compared to like Lineage 2, which would take you like a year to get to max level. It would take you like a month or two in WoW of serious grinding to get to that max 60. So where this kicks in with this game, what really drew me to it is just to get that the nostalgia feel on old school Ragnarok. And I will constantly give this game a tickle from time to time, just trying to level my character through it. I don't know if they have Aussie servers yet. I think the closest they have is an SEA server, but I think it's based in Singapore from what I remember. So you get a decentish ping from that.
You get a pretty good ping to Singapore, yeah.
Yeah, I think we get like 70.
70.
It was less, like 70 or something. Pretty sure to Singapore. So if that's the case, then that's awesome. One thing I have to say, which is very frustrating in the MMO world, is more companies, NCSoft, I'm looking at you, need to start catering to Australian servers. I understand they talk about markets and the cost and how many people are playing it, but if you don't try, you're never going to know. And WoW is finally, after 10 years, finally put Australian servers in, which has been a godsend. But games like the Old Republic had it, I remember. And whatnot. But games like Guild Wars 2 really needed Australian servers because that game had a big launch here too, and just basically disregarded your Australian customers. Even if you plop it like in Singapore or something, so it's like kind of Oceania, Australasia region.
SCA based.
I'm happy with that. Just something so we're not dealing with American ping and shit. Like you're talking about an MMO, you're trying to make it competitive. Games like Blade and Soul and whatnot. We're talking about competitive games that require action times. MMOs that are starting to move towards being cleaves and action oriented and almost like a Street Fighter MMO style. You need that responsive ping.
Mm-hmm.
So servers really need to get exactly.
Looking at you, mate.
Yeah, servers really need to start being shifted towards Australian locations, or at least SEA. But look, the main thing, like I said, that drew me to this game was the nostalgia Ragnarok. It did tickle my Ragnarok nostalgia bone, so I was happy with that. But what I wanted to see with you guys is, what did you guys initially kick yourselves off with in the MMO scene?
I think something to start off.
Yeah.
I mean, for a lot of people, it would have
Which
probably
one?
been EverQuest.
Hmm.
But for me, it was actually Ultima Online.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Trashy
It was
game
a- shit.
called Shadow,
Same for me.
which came and went.
Ultima. Wait.
Yeah.
Did you say? Are you talking about the one that was? What was it, Ultima Online? It had like a sub name to it, didn't it?
I can't remember if it had a sub name. Like they definitely did chapter releases and stuff.
Oh, okay,
but
maybe I'm thinking about that.
Ultima Online. Yeah, this is an extension of the Richard Garriott Lord British Games of Great. So yeah, original Ultima Online was actually the same for me as well, along with the typical slew. RuneScape Classic when it was first released,
Yep.
EverQuest, Ultima, Anarchy, things like that. Real classic legs.
Yeah, I think Ultima as well was one of the first persistent world online games outside of EverQuest.
But you guys played Ragnarok, so what did you
Well
play in
back
that?
way.
I
remember?
played a lot in Ragnarok. I played a ton of Ragnarok. I usually played monks though, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
So
just
you
go
were
around and dump.
cleric, was it? That ascended
Yeah,
into a monk?
cleric into monk. Yep.
Marty, what about you? Did you go your typical
didn't play
Meatbagg
Ragnarok.
warrior?
Nope.
Oh, you didn't play it?
No,
No.
not at all. Looked at it, went nope.
Too cutesy for my
I was a
liking.
WoW. That was when I was a WoW player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People hitting Ragnarok.
It's a polarizing difference between original Ragnarok Online and World of Warcraft. Yeah. That was a game. I mean, Ragnarok was a game I played though to grind. We spoke about the grindiness of those Korean MMOs, and I think a lot of Eastern-based MMOs are very grindy. Even today, even the ARPG or I guess action combat game type MMOs. But yeah, I played Ragnarok for the grind. It had that real. It was just kind of charming in the way it makes use of that 3D world, layered sprites. The art style is very, I guess, very typical, but at the same time unique as well.
Yeah.
It was just a really charming game, and it was kind of fun to just sit in Toy Factory and just pummel toys for fucking hours and hours to the hilarious tune of them breaking to
I
pieces.
remember that grind spot.
Yeah, Toy Factory, man.
Goddamn
Yeah, the toy
Factory.
soldiers, man.
That's all
When
you
they
did.
shot their hat like spun in the air.
You just sat there and just grind that place for days on end.
Yeah,
days on end, you would grind the goddamn Toy Factory. Holy shit!
Toy Factory.
Stranglethorn
Jesus
Toy
Christ.
Factory.
I can't believe
Man,
I
it was
remember
good.
that shit.
Yeah, man. I played a lot of Ragnarok. I played a ton. I definitely looked at Tree of Savior, but it's kind of like vanilla WoW for me. That's one of those things where if I play it now, I know the rose tinted glasses won't be on. I know it's gonna just blow up in my face.
Yeah.
Ragnarok's in a happy place there.
Don't worry, I will put it on the stream one day.
I just live vicariously through Cam's
Just
stream.
live through me. Me and my rage, just raging at the servers and the lag. But yeah, man. I also tackled in a lot of these like probably side Korean MMOs. You know, back when the MMO scene, when WoW first came out, you had all these copycats and pop up, and all these like hybrid MMOs appear and whatnot. And there was one that I used to always play with was called Rose Online.
Yes, I
Do you
remember
remember
it.
it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, I used to grind the shit out of that game.
That's
Restart
pretty much a game that was sponsored on Facebook nowadays.
Right?
Yeah.
Rose
Little
Online.
sponsored ad, Rose Online.
Yeah.
I think what does it
I don't want to say
stand
this
for?
ad. I'm offended.
It's something like Rush over 7 episodes was what was the acronym. But Jesus Christ, it's actually on Steam now. It's got a 7 out of 10 rating, and it was released in 7th July 2005. But Jesus Christ, I played the shit out of that. Cabal Online was another one. I played Alloys
Cabal
Online.
was kind of big.
Cabal was big. It was very detailed graphics. Like your characters looked really awesome, very mechy type of looking characters. But yeah, I always loved that persistent world type of character game. You know, you pick a character and you
Gundam Wing cross Final Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man. Cabal Online, that was old school, and there was so many games that would float around that were similar to these type of this style. So you'd have heaps of those typical grindy. They tried to be more like WoW in terms of like the skills and stuff you'd use, but they'd still have that grindy element as well. It was like a hybrid.
Yeah.
And they were everywhere. There was so many hit and miss ones too. There was some that tried to go beyond and tried to be like a new style, like those gunfighters online or something, where you actually used guns and like attacking and stuff. And it was almost like a PvP scenario. And Jesus Christ, there was so many different ones. There was side scroller MMOs. Maple Story for one, but then there was beyond that. There
Oh
was
man, you know what? I should talk on that. Me and Andy, we crushed.
I've always wanted to play that.
Enough,
Tell me about it. Is it actually good?
Maple Story was fun for the same reasons that I found Ragnarok fun, and some of my friends will hear this and crucify me for it. But yeah, it was that charming kind of art style. Like it was not competitive. Like it was just a grindy game. You could get on there. You could have a few beers. You could chill out. You could just smash mobs. Like it was a very chill game. That's at least how I went into it. Yeah, the reason I actually remember that game most is I was playing that game with Andy when Michael Jackson passed away, and this was
somber.
We thought it was a meme. We thought it was a joke. Like, and we played this that news came out at like 4 a.m. or something, and it wasn't until about 4 p.m. the following day. We'd just been playing the whole goddamn time. We'd seen so many people talk about Michael Jackson passing away. I decided to open Google, and lo and behold, it was true, and we just thought it was a meme. And that's, I suppose, the power.
And it became a meme very quick.
It did. It definitely did. That thought became a reality. But yeah.
Meme the world.
Yeah. Yep. That's sorry.
Getting our facts off memes, mate.
Yeah. Sorry, Maple Story. That's honestly probably the most memorable part of that entire experience.
Well, that answers my question. But over the years, man, there's been so many MMOs have come and gone or tried to stick around. I mean, just to name a few, there was Guild Wars, Terra, Star Wars: The Old Republic, EVE Online, Rift, Arcade, Neverwinter Nights. Oh my god, I could go on WildStar, Blade and Soul, freaking Final Fantasy 14, The Secret World, Age of Conan, Warhammer,
Secret
Age
World
of Reckoning.
See, some of those in there, and it's interesting you say that, right? And this goes back to kind of passing off Maple Story as the only memorable experience was MJ dying. There was such a flood of MMOs that you could literally pop in and you could play them for a month or two and you could get what you want out of the setting or the mechanics or what they offered and you would leave. And that's why agree. MMOs became that flavor of the month. Yep. Everyone wanted to have one. Everyone agree. Wanted 2 months of fucking crazy income. You know, buy the limited edition and get this fucking mini skirt. I don't know. Like everyone wanted to cash in on that. Yeah. You know, everyone wanted to cash in on it. Yeah.
Goes perfect with it.
One MMO that we did give a good bash into was Warhammer Age of Reckoning.
I was just about to say not Age of Reckoning, but actually was Age of Reckoning the fantasy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. Warhammer Fantasy, man, that was fucking brilliant. Talk about WoW clones.
No, I want to cry every time I think about that game, about how it just went down so shit.
Yeah, lost potential.
It was.
Oh man, the fun we had, me and Marty and I, the shit we did. I still remember to this day. I have this in my mind, okay? We're standing there. This is Marty, right? This is typical Marty. You're going to love this. Marty picks a black orc. So the biggest orc you can find on the battlefield. Paints the motherfucker completely yellow. So he has this bright yellow armor. We're doing a complete raid or a siege on a PvP tower. So we're trying to take this PvP castle. What you have to do is you fight the other team in the PvP area. You got to crush them. Then you got to get to the top and kill their PvE, like lieutenant or captain.
Like their boss. Yeah. It's very similar to AV.
Exactly. And you take over the tower. Now, we're there with the battering ram, smashing against the door, right? The door finally breaks and everyone's like, charge in. Everyone's flooding in and Marty just fucking emotes in the middle of everyone. He's just there going, out the front of the doors. It's such a Marty thing to do, man. Such a Marty thing to do. Just emoting there with this big ass yellow orc in the middle of this whole battlefield. All these guys are running in, freaking dark elves are running in and shit and chaos and stuff. And you just got the Marty standing right there, just going off the bright yellow orc.
Got to RP.
Well,
a little bit of RP.
It was one of the more.
God, yeah, it was so good.
It was one of the more admirable parts of that game, right? A lot of the charm to Warhammer Fantasy was how much they fucking nailed it thematically.
Oh, it was so.
It was
good.
really
We had
good.
so much fun with that. So much fun. I think I ended up maining that's it, Disciple of Cain. That was my end up. I ended up picking that until later on they start. And I remember in the beta we were like gunning for the Blackguard, but they never dropped it until release or later on in the release. And the Chopper class, which they actually removed, I think, from the beta at one point, from what I remember. Didn't they put him in originally and then take him back out? Do you remember that, Marty?
Or
were they just speculating about putting him in?
I think it was the Chopper. I know there was something to do with like a dark elf dude who had the massive halberds.
That's the Blackguard, the tank, their
magic
magic tank or whatever. Yeah. God damn, but the classes were so interesting, like the Pyromancer, the Sorceress, the way their mechanics worked in terms of like you'd use spells and it actually build up like a detrimental bar of power that could hurt you, but then you'd expend that to do huge damage. So there's a constant gamble, similar to like how Warlocks, they wanted Warlocks to be in WoW, but this was more clearly defined, I guess.
It was much when you use a resource like that, it makes sense, right? When you use a resource system and it's planned.
I think what screwed them up is the thing that screwed it up for me is now when we captured this tower and we finally defeated the champion at the top and we got control of the tower, what it gave you access to was a renowned trainer or a renowned gear character, renowned gear NPC.
Yeah.
As you killed people, you collected a certain currency, a PvP currency called renown, and you'd use that to purchase like really good gear. Now, what they did in release is they put those renowned trainers or renowned NPCs, which were only available in those keeps if you captured them. They put them into every freaking hub.
Yeah, they put them in camps, right?
Which
I remember
defeated
going
the whole purpose of doing PvP.
Yeah.
We're like, well, what's the point? There's no reason to go into those areas and take control of a keep apart from bragging rights. There was no reason.
It's pretty crazy that it actually won
It won an award
for 2008. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's dead now.
It cleaned up on it's completely discontinued. It cleaned up. It was discontinued fucking ages ago.
And
yeah.
Wrath of the Lich King came out in 2008, so that's like the contest that they had.
It cleaned up on. I remember seeing on MMORPG, like it cleaned up everywhere. It was such a hyped game. It was so well rated. People spoke of it so fondly, but I think it honestly fell into the trap that a lot of games using the Warhammer Fantasy IP have, and that's the reason Warhammer Fantasy is gone now. Is that it just became, for whatever reason, too difficult to push forward with content for it. They had so many plans post-release, and none of them really hit the floor. And you see that in a lot of Warhammer games. Even the 40k games can sometimes really, really struggle to actually find traction amongst the, they have this huge, rich IP, but it just never goes anywhere.
Did you say fantasy's gone?
Yeah,
Warhammer Fantasy doesn't exist.
Well, wait, so like Games Workshop,
it's retconned. Yeah,
wow,
it's done.
They actually removed it. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
holy shit.
It's called.
Fair enough. I guess it makes sense.
It's called Age of Sigmar now.
Oh,
well, it's not called Age of Sigmar now. It's a completely new game that they've rebranded.
So did they actually remove the fantasy aspect from the lore, or have they kind of like ended and said, okay, that's done, this is the lore, bang?
They've ended it in the sense they don't produce any more models or rules for Warhammer.
Okay.
So the lore's still being continued. The universe is still continued in Age of Sigmar. But there's no more rules being developed or models. All discontinued.
Wow, that's nuts. I'm gunning for a good Warhammer 40k MMO, but that has to be done right. But
Inquisitor Martyr is probably the closest we're going to get to this year, which is looking pretty damn good.
There's just so much Warhammer, skewed Warhammer shit.
I mean, since they want to have open world boss fights and stuff like that, co-op of up to, I think they wanted 8-player co-op. So imagine like 8 people, just like 8 Terminators, just all trying to take down a boss map in a few months.
I think that kind of almost brings us to our next point of topics as we're talking about this, and that is talking about our most anticipated titles for release this year. And I guess, Marty, you can just kind of continue on there with Inquisitor Martyr.
Well, Inquisitor Martyr is one of my checkpoints for anticipated titles this year. It's by the creators of Helsing. If anybody's played that ARPG out there,
Yeah, Van Helsing. It is really good if you haven't.
super polished as well.
You're
Yeah.
talking about the Adventures of Van Helsing?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's made
Yeah,
by the same guys
ARPG.
who made that.
Yep.
Oh shit! I played all those. Sick.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
All of them. That's why it's already looking super polished.
Are they using assets from it or something and repurposing it?
I think they're using the engine, which has been buffed up.
I'm looking at it now. It does look, quite
Like
similar.
Helsing. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see.
And if you look at the roadmap for that game, they've got a lot of stuff planned for this year. Vehicular combat as well. There's a lot of cool stuff they're planning for that game. Assassins, psychic classes, and stuff like that.
So it's going to be a persistent world, or is it going to be more Diablo-ish?
That's going to be open worldy.
Yeah, from what I know of it so far, it has open worldy type elements and then instance type elements as well. Which I honestly,
you pick an instance,
Sorry, go on.
Just finishing up, you go to different instances. So you have like a big world map, and you can choose to go to different planets to do different objectives and quests.
I like that. I think that's fine. That doesn't bother
Yeah,
me.
me too. Especially for an ARPG.
Yeah.
I think if you try and really double down on the open world thing, I mean, ARPGs, there's just too much attrition through gameplay to what you could realistically translate in a persistent open world environment, right?
It's too strenuous, and it allows the developers to have more control over their content as well. And games like Destiny, for example, is probably the most common example where they do something like this. You have your hub, your social hub, and then you break off into your instances, and they're obviously limited, like 3 characters or 6 or whatever, and that works. I think that works fine. It allows you to get into the action quicker too. A game like this with a view like this or a gameplay like this, I wouldn't necessarily want to have to grind or travel my way on foot to my destinations. I'd rather be able to have a cool looking social hub and then go, I want to go here, let's do this dungeon, or let's do this quest map, whatever.
Soon the year 40,000, you're not going to be walking any light years anyway. So that problem you don't have to worry about, good sir.
Yep, that one's solved. What else have you got on your, I guess, your most anticipated list for this year?
Star Citizen, to get to a final point that we can actually say, here is your alpha package. So this is what the game potentially might look like. Boot it up.
Yep.
So at the moment they're releasing it in modules, but I'm hoping they get to a point where they've said, all right, these 8 to 10 modules or whatever, this is what we're going to Star Citizen on. We're going to compile all these modules together, and this is so that's what I'm hoping they can get to for Star Citizen. I'm sure people probably have heard bits and bobs about that game since it was...
Has it got a very Mass Effect feel or influence, you reckon?
It's got more of a Crisis has sex with Eve Online.
Yeah, it does, for sure.
So Star Citizen, Warhammer Inquisitor, looking forward to Divinity Original Sin 2 as one of the other big games, which is going to be absolutely disgusting for RTS. I'm very looking to Dawn of War 3. So probably it's going to be a very Warhammer heavy anticipated titles.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
As well as Cyberpunk 2077.
I guess you could say you're hammering the war this year.
Well, I've always been a big Warhammer consumer, and I've always loved it growing up. Always loved Space Marines. I'm sorry. And it's just great to see that technology's finally gotten to a point where they can actually visualize 40K universe properly and give it glory that it deserves, because pixels just can't do it justice.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? It's such that kind of dark gothic mix of high and dark fantasy and everything they have going on there. It took a long time before, I guess, people thought that you could actually make that IP work as a video game. And I mean, now with the level of fidelity you can get, you can really translate the world to a digital space. And you're right, it's really goddamn cool.
Well, it's looking very, very tasty for Warhammer games coming in now. They've got a terrible, terrible history of games for Warhammer and Games Workshop license that they're giving out.
Yep.
Jesus, when they hit the nail on the head. They hit it
they hit the
goddamn
nail.
hard.
Yeah. Yep. Cam, what about you? What's your most anticipated?
Oh, my list. Let's see. My titles that I'm looking forward to haven't officially been announced for release in 2017, but these are the ones that we can speculate. Well, two of them should be definitely landing. I'll probably start off first and build up. Let's start off with Marvel versus Capcom Infinite.
Yeah.
We spoke about this in a previous episode when it was announced, but I am a massive fan of the Marvel vs. Capcom series, and I am so pumped for a new installment, especially something that kind of takes precedent from the original Marvel superheroes game back in the day. And of course, it's got Mega Man in it. Finally, I get to play as Mega Man X, so I'm even more pumped.
Yeah, you finally get to smash people with him.
Yeah, man. The character that basically brought me into the gaming world is actually going to be part of this, so I'm so pumped for this. I just love me a good tag team fighter, and I love the IPs in this. I love the Street Fighter universe. I love the Marvel universe. So it just ticks a whole shitload of boxes for me. They've always been really on point with Capcom and their fighting games. I've
always been good.
They've got a long track record of good games.
Yeah, I can say, yays and nays for Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but at the end of the day, it was still it was a game I played and happily enjoyed playing it. So yeah, I'm so pumped for that. Beyond that, because we've already spoken about it, now a game that I cannot wait to try and play, waiting for more info, is Borderlands 3. Holy shit. Did I play the shit out of Borderlands 1 and 2?
How cool did the fucking tech demo look, man?
Oh,
the
you
Unreal
saw that?
Engine. Yeah, how fucking cool was that?
So, just for anyone who didn't know, Randy Pitchford recently at the GDC used some assets from what people are claiming is Borderlands 3 to show a tech demo of the Unreal 4 engine. And they're showing off some new tech that Gearbox Software has actually created themselves in their internal dev team that they want to use in future games. And now everyone knows that they are working on Borderlands 3 next, because that's what they said at the release of Battleborn. They said the next game we are working on is Borderlands 3. So I'm just so pumped. I loved Borderlands 1 and 2. I played the shit out of it. I played it so much that I actually own it on like every console. That's how fucked up I am with that game. I have it on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and same with Borderlands 2 and the Handsome Collection. I've got that on all consoles and on PC. It's just a joy. I was actually contemplating installing it again and giving it a shot on PC and streaming it.
Wasn't so long ago I had two mates giving it a crack. They're a great series, man. They're fucking great. They really nailed the first person kind of loot pinata RPG-ish. They really nailed
the gazillion guns system and all that shit. And the one thing that makes a series so really good is the dialogue. They are on point with the dialogue in that game. Holy shit. Like Handsome Jack is they won awards.
How good is he? Yeah.
They won awards, I think from I remember, for like one of the most creative new villains in the video game universe, in the video game industry. Like he was just so well written and so funny and just such an interesting villain or interesting character. It's just such a good game. The other one that I am looking forward to and hoping it amends all issues with the previous one is Destiny 2. Recently, there's actually been an announcement from our good old Bungie. Good old Bungie, man. Talking about, saying that your characters will not transfer from Destiny 1 over to Destiny 2. I'm still processing how I feel about that. I am in two minds about it, in the sense that yes, if it's a new game and they're going to do it properly this time and not screw it up by promising shit and not releasing it and all that stuff, that I'd rather wipe the slate clean and just go fresh with the Destiny 2, which is a completely properly done version of Destiny. On the flip side, I can kind of understand the people who have put their efforts into Destiny 1, even put in microtransactions into it, and then not getting that transferring over to the sequel, which basically makes the original irrelevant. So that is guaranteed to come out this year, as according to the contract between Activision and Bungie, they have to release it this year. So Destiny 2 will hit stores this year. We're yet to hear anything else about it, though.
We get it on PC as well.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, we get it on PC. And I mean, I was always hyped for Destiny 1 to come to PC. I did play it I did play it initially. It wasn't the game for me, but I think a lot of that could be fixed by Destiny 2 as well, because a lot of the qualms I had, they're fixing there. But I can definitely understand where people are concerned over that whole, it not fitting the original game plan your character was meant to carry on, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I guess Destiny 1, it under-delivered so hard
It
that...
did. So many broken promises.
I agree. I definitely agree with you in that sense that if they are going to wipe this slate clean and they're going to really give it a good hard crack and it's going to be the Destiny it was meant to, then a clean slate suits it better.
Yeah. And I think this might be a game you guys might actually take a look at if it's on PC, because the underlying elements of Destiny, the original Destiny, the gameplay, solid.
Really solid.
Solid gameplay. The
really
gunplay
solid. Yep.
was on point. It was just Bungie polish next level. And it's just the other things that drew it back.
Original Halo 1 polish, kind of Bungie.
Oh, beyond, man. It's next level.
Yeah, beyond that, actually.
Evolved. Combat evolved again, basically. It was just, really well done. Really, really well done. The gameplay, actually, to be honest, I think it is an FPS that Overwatch has been influenced by, because you've got the ultimates and the abilities. You have for example, if you played your Titan class, you had like 2 abilities. So your grenades, you could choose what type of grenades you use and they do different things. And then you had another ability with your melee would do a certain thing and it'd go on cooldown. And you had this limited arsenal, and you also had an ultimate which you'd build up to. Very similar to Overwatch. You'd have, your characters have like a couple of abilities with cooldowns, and then you have your ultimate. So similar structure in that sense. And I think the way they came up with that, or not, they kind of refined that model, is something that's influenced some games that we're playing today. So Destiny has contributed in its own way, but in its own way let down a lot of people. So I'm hoping that Destiny 2 is what it should have been from the beginning. So I am inclined to give it another shot when that comes around. But at the moment, those are pretty much ones that stick out for me. A few honorable mentions, if I may, is Red Dead Redemption 2 is in the mix for a 2017 release, and I am looking forward to that. But that's it at this point. I'll go on to you, Nate.
Fair list.
It is it's a good list. You got a lot of high quality stuff there. I am looking forward to a lot of stuff. Typical CRPG nerd me. Divinity Original Sin 2 is probably at the top of that list, or I won't say top actually, because there's so many. Divinity Original Sin 2, super hyped for that. Expedition Vikings, a game that a few people probably haven't heard of. Basically another tactical based CRPG, but actually focused around Viking history, not using magic and mythos and crap like that intertwined. One of my absolute top titles for this year, and hopefully of all time, Torment Tides of Numenera has actually dropped. That only dropped on the 28th, so a few days ago. So I'm crazy looking forward to getting the chance to play that. It's just sitting there waiting. Cyberpunk 2077 for sure. I just want to hear something on it. That's not. I don't expect to get that this year. I am so fucking keen to hear about it.
They just give you those little teasers, don't they?
All of the Witcher series, everything that CD Projekt Red have done in the past is a teaser. But when you think about Witcher 3 and you think about the quality of content that CDPR are pushing out, you think about this seamless online that they're working, and then you think these guys are making this cyberpunk type really AAA RPG that I am so hyped for more on that.
I say to them, take your time. Take your time. Don't rush. Take your time.
I feel like they're definitely in the position where they'll do it. I mean, you've seen the quality of Witcher 3. You've seen the quality of the Gwent spin-off game.
They're done with Witcher, right? They said that's the final one. They wanted to
Witcher
leave
3 is wrapped up.
They want to
that's wrapped up. I don't know if it's wrapped up all of the Witcher universe for them, but it's wrapped up. It's wrapped up Geralt.
Yeah, they wrapped up Geralt's story.
It's wrapped up Geralt. I know they've said that it's wrapped up Witcher for them, but I'd be hesitant to kind of bang the gavel on that, because that's definitely something you can revisit prequel, sequel, different characters, etc. Outside of that, System Shock, the reboot, will be coming hopefully this year, towards the end.
Really?
BattleTech
4?
No, it's a System Shock reboot. It's like I suppose it's number 3. But yeah, it's like a reboot by the original devs as well.
2018, second quarter. So one more.
They've got it's listed from December 2017 through to Q1. Yeah. So if we get that, that's a real plus. We're definitely getting BattleTech, and I'm crazy hyped for that. Harebrained, all class. The shadow runs were absolutely brilliant. I can't wait for tactical CRPG type mech combat, especially because I'm not getting my fix of that from tabletops at the moment.
Yep.
The Umbra ARPG by Solarfall, that should hit its actual release. It's in an alpha right now, or a closed beta. Speaking of CryEngine, this is an ARPG done in CryEngine, so really gorgeous looking game. They should hit that, as I said, sometime this year. It's just a great year for CRPGs, indie games. I really get to fucking geek out over it.
CRPGs are making a comeback, man.
They've been doing it for years, and a
mainstream comeback. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you think that Torment Tides of Numenera is a PS4 and Xbox One release as well, that is the real. That's where I really think like, wow, we really are on the comeback. Those days have come back round, and I'm definitely thankful for it.
Holy shit! Did anyone here? I don't think any of you owned a Dreamcast, did you?
No.
No.
But did you ever hear of the Shenmue series?
Yes, of course.
The third one's coming out this year.
Yeah, didn't you know that?
Because I remember hearing about the IP finally being purchased or licensed to someone else to be able to make it.
Yeah, I think it was bought.
And people have been raving for that for years, since Shenmue 2.
Oh,
Holy
yeah, people
shit.
have cried for it, basically.
Holy shit. That's actually coming out. Oh, and for all those out there, Bulletstorm full clip edition's coming out. Fucking hell. These fucking re-releases are so annoying. Why do they do this shit?
Well, I mean, the re-release is I think it really can depend on what game, so I'll be careful what I say here.
Okay.
But the re-release is the crippled brother of the spiritual successor, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the games really nail it. They do a I guess an enhanced edition or something like that, and it blows it out of the goddamn park. I know a lot of people had issues with the Baldur's Gate enhanced editions, but I thought they were really great. Larian obviously knocked it out of the park. The enhanced edition thing can be really well done, and I'm still secretly sacrificing cash to Blizzard in hope that we will get a remaster of D2. That rumor was a hype one.
Well, funny you mention that, because they've recently confirmed there will be a Diablo 4.
And
they just said there will be one. That's all.
The rumor mill right now is that Diablo will be the next MMO IP for them. That's kind of the rumor hitting the streets, and I don't subscribe to it. But
I don't think it's the safe choice.
It's a shit choice, really.
Why compete with your own? Like, WoW is absolutely like god tier MMO. Nothing touches WoW. Nothing has touched WoW for 10 years, 10, 14 years, or whatever, 12 years it's been out. It hasn't been touched at the top of its game. Why would you mess with that?
I think it's because despite being the top of its tier, it's not a god tier MMO anymore. It was, but it's not now. So
but in terms of profit, nothing competes.
Yeah, it would still be very cannibalistic. You're right. I just don't think it would make sense despite the fact that I think at some point you will hear Blizzard happily admit that Diablo 3 didn't go the way they wanted, and it didn't pan out how they wanted. I don't think that will be enough reason for them to abandon the ARPG genre, because really they've owned it.
Of course,
they have owned it, and they've owned it at its absolute best.
Yeah, they've shaped the landscape with Diablo 1 and 2.
When you consider that Path of Exile is kind of like a spiritual successor to Diablo 2, and that, yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant one. It's literally the competitor to Diablo now.
Mhm.
I think that says enough about how much that they shape that landscape. So I don't think it will be enough for Blizzard to just kind of pull the pin and say, well, fuck this, let's try and hit the MMO cash cow again now that, you know, Titan panned out into Overwatch.
Well, a couple of other honorable mentions that I've just noticed and remembered is Injustice 2. That looks cool.
Yep.
Tekken 7.
Definitely honorable. Oh, yeah, Tekken 7.
Which has Akuma in
That
it.
should be cool.
Which is interestingly. Yeah.
It will actually be a good year. You can consider For Honor a fighter, and you can definitely consider 2017 to be a good year for fighters with Marvel vs. Capcom, Injustice, and Tekken.
Yep. And hopefully Street Fighter 5 getting some more
some more content.
And obviously dominating the fighting competitive scene as it does. Because the game at the end of the day has a solid fighting engine. And that's one thing they wanted to nail. They said, we know we released this game with like bare bones content, but we wanted to make sure that the fighting system in this is top tier, still at the competitive edge, like top of the competitive scene. And that's what they did. They actually nailed that fighting engine, and that is nailed. It's 100% solid. It just sucked that on release we had a very short roster of characters.
very thin game.
One release that's coming out this year, Nate, that I want to poke your brain about is Prey. What do you think about that? About the re-release or the remake?
I legitimately feel bad for not putting it in my list now because have you guys played Dishonored?
Yes.
Yeah, it was number 1, not number 2.
Yeah, so I haven't played 2 yet either, and that's literally just down to the fact that I still have this enormous triple digit list to get through. But Arcane Studios are rebooting Prey, and we kind of spoke briefly on this. It's not a Prey originally was a it was a mediocre game. Most people call it shit. I thought of it a little I thought of it at least a little more fondly than that, just because some of the story elements were original, but the new Prey looks fucking great. And Arcane create an absolutely out of realm experience with Dishonored. Dishonored 1 was for me a real mind bender of a game. I was blown away by Dishonored 1. I'm keen for Dishonored 2, and I'm super keen for Prey because it's got this unique polymorphing system. It's got a very, very cool looking story. It's actually based in space. It's based off Earth this time. Well, it was the first time you're on a fucking alien planet and alien ships and stuff, but it was also based on Earth. You warp there, so it's the reboot looks really cool to me. I'm still going to attribute a lot of it to just Arcane blow me away every time I play an Arcane game.
And one of the final mentions that I'd like to bring up is one that we're trying to get our soggy little mitts on is Arcane Warfare.
The new Shiv game.
Yep.
From the Shiv.
Yeah, yep.
That's interesting. It's
delicious.
I just think it's interesting they went that direction.
To me, it's kind of a no-brainer because Shiv was obviously a really fucking great game. It was a ton of fun. I still play it up till now. I still jump on every now and then for a bit of hack and slash.
Nothing beats swinging that great sword and getting 3 heads off.
How good is it? Yeah, yep. Or you just chop up. You just manage to cleave like 3 people in half.
And running charge! You guys just charging in and yelling and shit. They specifically made that feature for Marty. They didn't make it for anyone but him.
They took all my feedback. It's good.
Well, it's just such a fun game, and funnily enough, the emote system and the way it works is part of it because it's a little bit goofy, right? Chivalry, and they kind of harness that. They know it's a bit goofy. They just run with it, like, okay, this is a bit of a goofy game. It's a bit whatever, but you have a blast playing it for that reason. So to me, it completely makes sense that they kind of move over to an Arcane type setting because. Funnily enough, talking about Arcane Studios, one of the games they did, and it was probably the first game that sold me on the top end quality of them, was Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, and that was a game in which you were from the first person, you were slinging spells and stuff like that, and it was an absolute ton of fun, and it was actually very similar to how Shiv plays in a way. So it's kind of a natural movement for me when you think of how Shiv plays and how much fun you can have. You can definitely imagine yourself having that much fun shooting spells.
Dude, Dark Messiah, remember that? That was so old school. Holy shit.
That's what I was saying, man. Arcane have got an absolute killer list of titles. Arx Fatalis, Dark Messiah, Might and Magic, Dishonored, Prey, Bioshock. Like, Arcane are make...
Bioshock, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, they make great experiences.
Bioshock was, like, fuck, when it initially came out, there was a really dry rut for FPSs that had strong lore, atmosphere, and immersement.
Yep, it was fucking great, man. Yeah, yep. Yeah, so 2K and Arcane, they did Bioshock 2 as well. But sorry, we have completely digressed from where we were meant to be. Yeah, I'm hyped for Arcane Warfare. Well, it's actually called Mirage, Arcane Warfare.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Maybe you're right. They're going to that. They knew Chivalry's goofy, and going to an Arcane setting or a Magic setting allows them to be more goofy. Just capitalize on that.
Well, it could let them be more goofy, but at the same time, they've also taken in a ton of funding from Shiv. They had great success with that. Yeah. And I think if you look at the art style on that for Arcane, it looks like they kind of doubled down, at least in their art style and stuff, and the way the game will play on that whole, we don't need to take ourselves super serious. We don't need a For Honor type combat system. You can just really enjoy what Torn Banner do, because at the end of the day, you're going to have a fun experience with the combat and how it plays out, regardless of it not taking itself super seriously.
And you got to love the name, Torn Banner.
Yeah, Torn Banner. Yep. Torn Banner.
Is this your banner, mate? Is this your banner? Oh, it's torn. Sorry.
Well, I see. Have you guys watched the trailer for Arcane Warfare?
I think I have. Depending which one you're talking about. Is this the one with the announcement one? That they did
I guess any of them serve the purpose, but this kind of, to me, looks like a mix between Savage from S2. If you guys played that, looks like a mix between Savage, Overwatch, and Chivalry, and that to me sounds like a fucking great combo.
It does. That would definitely be a great combo, and just add that goofiness on top of it. Just have that layer of fun where you make your own game within the game. You have your own fun, that's a part of the whole fun of having fun with Shiv, with playing with Marty and all back in the day, was just us creating our own fun in it, just laughing at the shit that went down and the crazy ragdoll effects. You just lob some guy and see him go flying, his carcass goes halfway across the map. You're just losing your shit.
Rolled.
Oh, so many heads rolled, man. And, you have a nice balance now. So you got this goofy Chivalry or Mirage, and then you've got the more serious one, which is For Honor, which really caters to both spectrums.
Well, I think the strength of Shiv, and the reason it's kind of or has been timeless, is that despite being a bit of a goofy game and how it works, and charging and the long drawn animations and stuff, the combat really is quite engaging. The combat is pretty deep. To shorten that all down from the fucking blurb I always manage to find myself in, I'm pretty hyped for Mirage Arcane Warfare.
And not to mention a few siege weapons thrown in there just to, make things
just for good measure.
Arcane siege weapons,
Yep. Throwing arcane grenades and stuff. So, I mean, when I look back on that list, I feel like I say this every year, but 2017 is just looking killer for releases.
Yeah.
For a lot of things, movies, games, technology. It's going to be a strong year.
Fucking good time to be a nerd, boys.
I guess you could say
good time to be a nerd.
I guess you could say part of the recent release, they're switching it up this year.
The Switch is a piece of shit. I'm not going to talk about it.
And on that note, I think we'd like to give a shout out to Gigamov, guys. If you're looking for pop culture needs, go check out Gigamov. It is gigamov.com. And they have all the awesome pop culture stuff from upcoming writers. I know Nate himself as a writer has scoped it out from time to time. So if it's got his seal...
don't take our word for it. We're sitting here talking about 2017's new releases, movies, comics, the whole slather, and those guys have got a bunch of good content. They've got reviews up, early looks at Mass Effect 3. They've got looks at...
Having a look right here, you've got... articles about the Horizon Zero Dawn release and a review on that. You got Mass Effect, so with Mass Effect Andromeda coming out soon, you can kind of get you can join one of the writers' journeys through playing the original Mass Effect games and relive the nostalgia through him. So, yeah, man, definitely check it out. You got your TV shows on here, books and everything. It's always worth the geese. So, support them, support up and coming content and community in the community. Check out Gigamov.
Our wonderful sponsors.
I guess that's it for us for this week, boys.
It is. So, well, I guess I'll see you guys next time on the next talking bit.
Hopefully you do come back, even without a contest.
Thanks for watching, guys.
All right. See you guys. Catch you later. If you are listening to the podcast, you can find the link all over our Twitter. You can also find it on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. It is everywhere the eye can see. Also, please, again, check out gigamov.com. Definitely check those guys out for all your pop culture needs.
Partners.
Yeah. And thank you so much for listening. So, guys, bid you all adieu, and catch you next time on the Battlefronts.
We'll see you in the War of the Factions.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, Marty. We'll just go like that. Do go to boat.